The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you today by Draft. Looking for the best fantasy sports site on the planet? Sign up with Draft today. For a limited time only, our listeners will receive $3 matching their first deposit of at least $10. Use promo code DTR or visit draft.com/DTR to sign up now. Draft. Fantasy for the people. Now enjoy the show.
Caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. Robert Wood, touchdown. LA. Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. Picked off. Marcus Peters coming off the edge, and Ryan will be wrapped up by Clay Matthews. Everett in stride. Wow!
Franklin Myers gets his hand down there.
Leto got a hand on it. Did he pick it? He did!
Racing down the sideline is Akeem Talib. Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA! Picked off by John Johnson. Well, it's Dante Fowler who is able to get to breathe. Greg Zuerlein sends the Rams to the Super Bowl! LA will play for the Lombardi!
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 247. I'm your host, Jake Ellenbogen. Joining me, as always, is Alexis Kraft. And we are recording this right after the Rams' brutal, heartbreaking, depressing loss, 30-29 in Seattle, to fall to 3-2 and lose their second straight game of the season. We have plenty of thoughts on this. I'm pretty angry, honestly. I'm disappointed, angry, and I think we can have some fun with this and kind of use it as a coping mechanism. But the Rams lost 30-29. We're gonna get into it. First off, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. But Alexis, I mean, I know obviously you watched the game as well as most of the country tonight, and it was one of the better games of the year in a sense that there was never a team that was fully out in front and dominated, and it was exciting. It was definitely fulfilling, but obviously it's almost worse than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers loss. No, it is worse than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers loss because with the Buccaneers, they're coming off that brutal loss. They missed a field goal against the Giants to win the game, and then they're pissed off. They're a desperate team fighting to save their season. And I look at this loss against the Seahawks, and in the manner it came in, they had so many opportunities. The Rams could have won this game by 2 scores. They also could have lost by 2 scores. Clearly, turnovers are an issue. And, today, I will say, I don't think Jared Goff, I know people are really quick to say Jared Goff looked really good and improved. I'm not about to say that. I think Jared Goff had his best game of the year, but he is nowhere near where he was last year around this time of year on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, well, I think, I've been on this podcast for the past 2 games not happy with Jared Goff. And actually tonight, I had no issue with Jared Goff. I mean, he did a lot of things. I still think he made a lot of mistakes. But I think this game more than others, the team around him just really let him down. I mean, we had a lot of drop passes. He had, especially that interception at the end, that was not on him. He did make some throws that were like really kind of like weak and low. What comes to my mind is kind of that throw to, I think there was 2 to Cooper Kupp that he just threw just way, low and kind of they didn't have enough juice on him or whatever. So there was things like that he did again, holding on to the ball, not finding the open receivers, things that we've been saying about him that he needs to fix. I don't think that he's fixed them enough, but I can see maybe a little bit of improvement. But what was such a bummer about this game is, like you touched on, the Rams could have won this game. The Rams, you could argue that the Rams should have won this game had they just made better decisions and not made as many mental mistakes. Because I'll be honest with you, my prediction for this game, when we did the game preview, was that we were going to overtime and the Rams were going to win in overtime. The closer we got to this game, I just had this feeling that it was going to be bad for us. I don't know what it was. Going into this game, I didn't feel, good about Seattle. And I actually think Seattle played well. And I think that we played well in the sense that, if Seattle really, really got going and we weren't up to the task, we could have gotten blown out. But luckily for us, Seattle, I don't think played to their full potential, but also we, I think, stepped up, at times that we needed to. But again, the issue with this game is we didn't step up when we actually needed to step up. Of course, you can argue that, we lost at the end because Greg Zuerlein missed a kick. Listen, this loss is not on Greg Zuerlein. I mean, he's part of the reason. I mean, obviously he wins. If he makes that kick, we win. So I get it in that sense, but I always kind of fall into the school of thought that don't put yourself in a position to lose the game because of one play. Because that one play, while it might be quote unquote the reason you lost, the actual reason that you lost is because you didn't do things in the game to put yourself ahead and give yourself a lead. You probably missed a lot of plays. You probably missed a lot of opportunities. And that's what happened to the Rams. So we'll kind of get into that more. But I think the overall consensus about this game is just like, it was just a bummer. I mean, it was a thrill watching it, and it goes down, to the last play. And games like that, I think, are fun if you win. But then if you lose, you're just kind of like, it's just like you're disappointed. But all you can do from it is really, assess what went wrong, work on it, and go from there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I'll start by saying this. Without Greg Zuerlein, you kind of have to take 11 points off the board, and you're now at 30-18. So then the field goal really doesn't matter. So this whole idea that it was his fault, he accumulated 11 points for this team, and just off him. So we can say what we want, and I mean, he makes 3 field goals, 2 extra points. I'm not about to pin this on Zuerlein. Zuerlein made the kick to send the Rams to the Super Bowl. Zuerlein's made multiple kicks in the past. He's one of the best kickers in football. It's not Zuerlein's fault. It's kind of the frustrating thing is because how lucky is Seattle? To me, yeah, they played well. But they absolutely deserve to lose at the end. I mean, you could make the argument no team really deserved to win this game. They both shot themselves in the foot. But at the end, Pete Carroll, the way he was celebrating, I'm like, your coaching at the end of this game was abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. I was honestly so shocked. It didn't get this, Alexis. I'm watching the game at the end, and it's when the Seahawks go, for that crazy trickery ladder play on third down. And what that does is it takes them completely out of field goal range. And they punt it. And I'm thinking, I just already, in my mind, I already put up that it was 33-29 and the Rams were going to need a touchdown. And then all of a sudden I realized Seattle literally didn't get 3 points on that drive somehow with the turnover. How on earth did that not happen? So they punt the ball back. Good special teams play. Maybe, some poor judgment on the part of JoJo Natson, who, wasn't back there to return one of the punts earlier in the game, and it led to the Rams starting field position at the 2-yard line, which set up a Seattle touchdown because, you talk about that's chess match right there. That's called, field position battle. So again, another reason why it wasn't on Zuerlein, but it bothers me so much that you lose a game like that was literally gifted to you. The Rams were gifted a minute and 45 to go down the field and score. And, they looked good. They were moving the ball. But Seattle was also in prevent defense. I am a firm believer if you play prevent defense when the team that is playing you just needs a field goal in the coming, the next, couple of minutes or whatever that's left in the game, you deserve to lose. I mean, this goes back to when the Rams lost, the greatest show on turf lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They deserve to lose because they played Tom Brady and the Patriots offense that they held all game to 17 points. They just needed a field goal. It was a tie ball game, and they played prevent defense to let Adam Vinatieri go down the field and kick a field goal to win the game. It just bothers me to no end the fact that the Rams didn't take advantage of that horrible coaching. I mean, I would honestly give Pete Carroll an F for the coaching in this game. There were multiple occurrences where I was like, what are the Seahawks doing? They should have taken the game over. I mean, when they grabbed held the lead, I mean, they really should have taken over. So, I mean, that's kind of my, thought there. As far as, the Rams go, their defense looked better than last week, but I don't know, what happened. Like it's not even, that's the thing. I also don't want to hear like, oh, well, Troy Reader's playing and there's no Taylor Rapp and, there's injuries, and it's like, okay, but every team gets them. And there, is Troy Reader being out there, who, by the way, led the team in tackles with 13. Is him being out there the reason that Aqib Talib forgot that he had to cover Rashad Penny, who, I mean, he easily could have picked that ball off if he knew what he was doing? No. Troy Reader had nothing to do with that. So, there are multiple occurrences like where people are like, well, don't use excuses. I mean, you could say Brandon Cooks being out there makes the game a lot different later on in the game. Bottom line is the Rams are a better team than Seattle. They should have won this game. And, we can look at it all. This is there's a lot of stuff to build off this game. And you are right. You're absolutely right. Goff looked better. You started moving the ball with Todd Gurley. I mean, then they kind of stopped running the ball with Todd Gurley. But you have your second straight game with, receivers, two receivers over the 100-yard mark. Actually, I think it's the third straight game. This one was Everett and Kupp. I mean, really, it's going back to the turnovers. Todd Gurley fumbling, near the red zone. That was a killer turnover. And another turnover is and this is the thing that sucks is Jared Goff gets the interception, but he throws a bullet that is right on target. It's allowing Gerald Everett to pick up the first down and more, towards the end of the game in a crucial down. And it goes right through his hands. It's tipped, and Tedrick Thompson comes down with the football. And that's an interception for Goff, but I mean, you should really just charge that to Everett because that was just bad. And that's just kind of how I see it. Turnovers, the last two games, they have not taken care of the ball. And it's that simple. And that's why they'll lose those games because eventually, now I'm glad, honestly, that they're starting to realize they're not invincible. This is a team that won a lot of those games last year that maybe, you could have seen them losing with other coaches, but, they're not winning them this year. They've now lost 2 in a row, and they could have easily lost the game against Cleveland.
Yeah, I just overall was not a fan of play calling really from either coach this game at all. However, I will, say it was refreshing to see Todd Gurley kind of get the carries he deserved, at least at first, because I think then it kind of like waned off. But it was nice. I mean, Todd Gurley got 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns. He only had 15 carries, though.
Right, but I just think that, that should have been a sign to hopefully McVay going into next game, like, oh, maybe I should run the ball more, because that's kind of been a frustration amongst us Rams fans, is wondering why the ball is not being ran more. So it was kind of nice to at least see for a little bit that Todd Gurley was, more involved this game, I think, than he has been in previous games. But yeah, as far as the offense goes, I think we covered it. Just basically, Goff did play better. I don't think I don't think he's playing at the level I think that he can play at yet. And again, I don't really know why that is. We've talked about that, but I still think he can be playing a lot better. Our offensive line actually was not as bad as last game. So that was also refreshing to see. I mean, there was a couple plays where they just completely collapsed and you're kind of like, oh God, here we go again. But I think they did at least a little bit of a better job containing a Seattle defense, like we said last episode, that's really, really tough. I mean, that front line of that Seattle defense is super tough. So I think that our offensive line did a lot better against them than I thought they would. But I kind of, now that we've kind of talked about the offense as much as, there was to really say about that, the defense is going to be interesting to talk about because the only person that I saw doing anything on defense was Aaron Donald. Which is, I guess, is not surprising, but I mean, Aaron Donald was getting it, especially in that first half. I mean, Aaron Donald I thought he was going to destroy Russell Wilson like 10 times. I mean, he was just breaking through that line, doing all that he could, and they kind of did better at containing him in the second half. So he slowed down a little bit, but the issue I think right now, one of the issues on defense, I think, especially in that game, is the secondary. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, they just were essentially, for the most part, non-existent.
I mean, I thought, there were times where the problem is you have talent, but if you're going to play off man the whole game like that, I mean, you're just allowing Russell Wilson to pick you apart. And I mean, that's just looking at, his ability to throw the football and with accuracy, with timing, with touch and velocity. But when you don't factor in the fact that he can run, and then you add that element, and he can throw off platform as well as anybody, it just makes it impossible to defend that. And in my opinion, I mean, these guys need to man up. I've been saying that. I think they play way too much zone. I think they play way too much soft zone, and this is how stuff like this happens. Russell Wilson was incredible tonight, and by the way, going back to Aaron Donald, shout out to Aaron Donald for almost tearing his ACL to avoid hitting Russell Wilson. Absolutely hate that rule that, a quarterback can slide at any given moment. And I think it's ruining defense. I really do. I watched it multiple times. I think Russell Wilson's a phenomenal player. Okay, I respect him. But I am so tired of him getting the benefit of the doubt. I'm so tired of that, that call on Clay Matthews at the end. You just gave Seattle 15 yards. On a play where the Rams pressured Seattle into getting Russell Wilson out of the pocket and making him throw it away. They get a free 15 yards because they didn't like the way Clay Matthews hit him, which was entirely legal based on the rule book. And I'm just tired of it. I think Russell Wilson was incredible tonight, but, I was pissed off from the get-go when I saw Aaron Donald is running over to make a play, and it's like Russell Wilson can just sit down and he can go from full sprint to that baseball slide, and now Aaron Donald has to dive out of harm's way, just so he doesn't get penalized. It's ridiculous. And you want to talk about player safety? Someone's gonna tear their ACL because of that.
Right. I agree, because I that play, when I saw it, I was scared for my life when I saw the way that Aaron Donald landed on his leg. Basically, I kind of looked like he did the splits almost. I mean, he basically tried to maneuver his body so he wouldn't hit Russell Wilson, and it really actually could have injured him. He got up and thankfully looked fine after he basically did the splits on the ground, and his knee bent in a weird way. It was really scary, but I tend to kind of be, in that school of thought where I think you're right. I think at a certain point, the quarterback sliding gets annoying. I think that you should have maybe a certain amount of yards or smaller pocket or window of availability to do that, because it is, like you said, you could be running full speed and you just slide down, and those defenders are either going to injure you by accident, injure each other, colliding into each other, or they're going to injure themselves trying to avoid you. So I just think that is becoming really, really annoying. And I'm not like you mentioned as well, I'm not putting that on Russell Wilson because every quarterback does this. I think maybe Russell a little bit more because he is so mobile and he runs a lot more than the average quarterback. And so I think maybe, he would probably do that more than others. But you mentioned, so we talk about Aaron Donald on that defensive line, and nobody else from the defensive line really stood out to me, but we did have Dante Fowler getting a lot of pressure. What did you think about him tonight?
Yeah, I thought he looked good, and then I think he suffered somewhat of a hamstring injury, and we'll see moving forward. But his play was noticeably slower and less intense after that injury. He stayed out there, but I would have rather seen Samson Ebukam, who I don't think had a great night at all, including a really bad offsides penalty, and probably I wouldn't have rather seen Samson. I probably would have rather seen Nitrez Patrick, who was active for this game, who is somebody that they like a lot, and I would have liked to see him get involved. And that's just kind of where I was leaning. That's just I felt like Clay Matthews. People are saying Clay Matthews is entirely a coverage sack guy, and you know what? Can I just say I don't care? Can I just say that the Rams had one sack all game long? It doesn't matter how much pressure Aaron Donald got. Clay Matthews is the guy that got the sack. We can complain all we want about players on our team and not being perfect. Clay Matthews is producing, guys. Like, if you're going to have a problem with him getting to the quarterback and getting the sack because Aaron Donald, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, who was the king of the almost sack? Chris Long. Chris Long set up so many sacks for everybody else. Okay? He never got the credit that Aaron Donald gets. And I'm not trashing Donald, but I'm like, it's every little thing. It's, Clay Matthews is, he's not that good. He didn't have to do anything. I don't really care because if Clay Matthews doesn't do anything, the Rams literally end this game with 0 sacks. And it's kind of alarming. So, they've kind of gone with, the veteran edge presence over the last couple of years. Robert Quinn. They, of course, had Connor Barwin, and now they're going with Clay Matthews, who has been more impactful than any of them. That's how I see it.
No, I definitely agree with you there. I think that, you're spot on with that. But I just think going into next week, we play the 49ers, who are leading our division at 3-0. So looking at this game, Jake, what do you think this Rams team needs to fix if we're going to go win against San Francisco? Because we can say all we want, San Francisco's not good, they haven't had to play a good team yet, XYZ. But the truth is, guys, they're 3-0 no matter who they've played, and we've got to go play them next week. Obviously, we don't play this Sunday because we played tonight, but this Sunday following that, we have to play San Francisco. So what do you think we need to do, Jake, if we want to win that game?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. You need to win the turnover margin because the Rams have now lost that twice, and it has gone in the favor of the other team twice. So yeah, first off, win the turnover battle. Second, continue to, mix up your game plan. What I loved about what the Rams did coming out of, into the second half, they got their tight ends involved. I'm a little tired of hearing how bad the Rams tight ends are when, let's be real here, these guys are, 6th and 7th options at times because of how much talent is around this offense. It doesn't mean that they're bad. And I think you're starting to see, how good did Tyler Higbee look tonight? Pretty fresh off that injury, right? I mean, this is his second game back, and he looked really fresh. He looked faster. Looks like he's lost some weight. I mean, I was impressed with the way he moved, in space. And Gerald Everett had a huge, drop that I mentioned that led to an interception and, was, very vital. But, he was incredible tonight. He really was. Aside from that, and Gerald Everett, his catch put them into field goal range, for this game. So, I think the key is you want to start, you want to not start, you want to build off of what you've kind of, started to put together with this game. You learn a lot about yourself in a loss. I always bring this up. you've now had 2 straight losses. So you haven't been in the win column in 2 straight games. It's a little different. You're the Rams. You just represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. You should be looking at this 49ers team like, hey, this is a 3-0 team. This will probably end up being a 4-0 team. If they beat Cleveland, they will be. I mean, that's a team you have to go up and you have to assume the worst, that they are the better team than you, and you have to beat them. I mean, it's that simple. It's a week by week league. You only play 16 games. There's not really such a thing, especially in this culture that Sean McVay and Les Snead have built, with this regime. There's no looking forward. There's no looking ahead. Like, there were people saying they were looking ahead to, the Seahawks game. And, and that's why they lost to Tampa Bay. There's none of that. It's week by week. The Rams are, one thing I'll bring up, the Rams are going to have extra time because they played Thursday night. And while they lost, they'll have a long amount of time, before they play again. It's going to be next Sunday. They get, all that time off to figure it out. And, the 49ers are playing Sunday. So the Rams will have the advantage there, and they'll also be at home. So I'm looking forward to that game. I'm looking forward to them bouncing back. It sucks because they lost by 1. But at the end of the day, when you're the Rams, you already put yourselves in this position to, be the top team in the conference. I mean, you have to win. That's all that matters. The scoreboard, the stats, it doesn't matter. All that matters is W's.
No, I definitely agree. And I do think that this is probably the first time in a very long time I've been excited for a Rams 49ers game. I mean, going into next week, right? I mean, it's been a really, really long time since, San Francisco's been competitive. So I definitely, am excited for it. We got to wait a little bit longer than usual just because we played, tonight, which is Thursday. But, I leave this game feeling more hopeful about how the Rams are playing than, depressed about it, kind of how I was last week. So, I think that we have a really, really good shot of beating this 49ers team.
Yeah, I do too. You have to shake it off. Obviously, this was our podcast we recorded literally minutes after the Rams missed a field goal to win the game. I mean, we're going to have our moments of anger and all of that. But I feel pretty good, now that we got that off and you guys have kind of heard our piece. The Rams, this is what they have on the docket. 49ers, Falcons, Bengals, Steelers, Bears, Ravens. I mean, those are the teams, the next, few weeks, those are the teams that the Rams will be worried about. If the Rams take care of business, if they were to win every game, they're 14-2. They need to control what they can control. Right now, they put themselves in a little predicament. But they do have an opportunity to face Seattle again. And depending on how this 49er game goes, of course, you don't want to see them lose 3 straight. They do get another crack at the 49ers.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that's going to do it. For Jake Ellenbogen, she's Alexis Kraft. This has been your After the Game podcast that we never really get a chance to do, but it's pretty fun. And, wish, the result was different, but hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. And, we'll be back to get you ready and preview the Rams and 49ers game next week. Later, guys.